Hello everyone and welcome to session 3 of the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle. My name is Randie Henderson and I am one of the Black Feminist Reading Circle members of this online group. This session runs from January 20th until June 2nd and includes 2 week-long breaks. Our democratically selected reading material is Harriet A. Washington's book, Medical Apartheid, The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present. Our book group meets each Tuesday evening from 6:30 to 8 on the Google Plus Hangouts on Air platform. You may find the Global Black Feminist Reader Circle on Google Plus, YouTube, and Facebook, and always feel free to join us in reading our story together.
So this evening we're going to summarize and discuss Chapter 1, Medical Apartheid, The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present by Harriet Washington. We'll start off by introducing ourselves. Okay, who wants to introduce himself?
I'm Kim. I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
My name is Gorgette Moses, and I'm participating from Columbia, South Carolina, and I'm glad we're on Chapter 1. And I'm looking forward to it, our discussion tonight.
Welcome to the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle. My name is Michelle Odom. I'm one of the co-hosts of the group, and I am located in New York City. I think if Venita is not able to come back in, then I will go ahead and moderate tonight's discussion. This is session 3, meaning it's our 3rd book that we're reading, and this session is running from January 20th through June 9th, 2015.
Chapter 1, Southern Discomfort, Medical Exploitation on the Plantation. In Chapter 1, Southern Discomfort, Medical Exploitation on the Plantation, author Harriet A. Washington offers an overview of early medicine in the American South. She briefs readers on the beliefs, practices, and conditions in which doctors and African Americans encountered one another. She identifies the shared economic interests doctors held with planters and how this common bond undermined the health of and instilled the fear of medicine, or iatrophobia, in Black Americans, a fear that exists to this day. Primarily focused in the 1700s and 1800s, this chapter describes the deplorable public health practices of the era, which only worsened circumstances for the enslaved population. We also learn a bit about scientific racism, or the use of scientific techniques and hypotheses to support or justify the belief in racism, racial inferiority, or racial superiority, or alternatively, the practice of classifying individuals of different phenotypes into discrete races. One doctor, for example, Josiah Knott, MD, theorized that the distinctive knee joint and long heel of the Black man proved he had been created as a submissive knee bender, a servant to whites. Another leading voice was that of Samuel A. Cartwright, MD, who identified conditions afflicting Blacks such as drapetomania, or an insane urge to escape from slavery. With pseudo-scientific and biblical justifications in place, planters and medical practitioners freed themselves to administer a series of inhumane treatments to cure a variety of real and imagined diseases and conditions. Fortunately, some enslaved people held on to African beliefs and practices which provided some relief for those who were ill, and often taught these skills to Western practitioners.
Ominously for Blacks, The owners, not the enslaved workers, determined safety and rationed medical care, deciding when and what type of care was to be given. Scientists also claimed that the primitive nervous systems of blacks were immune to physical and emotional pain and to mental
Wow.
illness, which released physicians and owners from the responsibility of shielding black slaves from painful medical procedures and justified torture, such as branding, whipping, hobbling, and maiming. But most physicians shared the economic and political interest of slave owners and conspired with planters, their real clients, to subjugate slaves by invading their bodies. Why does the author characterize the role of slave owners as ominous where safety and medical care were concerned? Well, I guess I would say, especially for Kim's benefit, she's really describing it as ominous for slaves because the planters or slave owners, so-called slave owners, I hate the term slave, and I hate the term slave owner because it just feels to me like giving in to a relationship, to a designation that is just so wrong. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent.
That's okay.
But it was ominous for black people because the planters' interest was not their only interest was whether or not you were healthy enough to get back out on the field and work, and so whatever the enslaved person said about how they were feeling just didn't matter. And so it was the slave owners and the doctors who determined whether or not the enslaved people were able to work. And so, obviously that meant a lot of people had to work while they really were not feeling up to it. They had to work through all kinds of conditions, and if they really couldn't work, then that was cause for a beating or some kind of torture. So it was bad news to have other people making the decision about how you feel, and it's bad news today.
Yes, I agree. Mm.
Yeah. You want to add anything on that point, Gorgette?
Well, it kind of sounds like what's been going on in football. Not that I'm a big football fan, but definitely to see how long it's taken for the NFL to even recognize that concussions cause all these other symptoms, suicides and violent behavior in their players, when they're just concerned with, okay, let's shoot them up and get them back on the field,
Right.
And then I think they made some kind of settlement, but that's not even enough to even satisfy the tip of, a small percentage of the families who are affected by what's happened to all their loved ones who've been involved in the game. That's still one of our modern day plantations is the football field.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. Yeah.
I think for me, it's what comes to mind is that a lot of African women were breeders.
Mm-hmm.
and they would decide who you could have a child with in relation to your own body. And a lot of the plantation owners, they would impregnate the African women so that they could just make more money. So they were actually enslaving their own blood, their own kin. So I don't know what's more ominous than that.
Yeah.
And then they would sell those too.
Yes.
So, yep.
Yes. There's also Harriet Washington also talks about how to punish pregnant women. See, they would accuse you of things like malingering or trying to get out of work, and so if you were being punished for something like that and you were pregnant, they would dig a hole in the dirt big enough to accommodate your belly, because supposedly if you whipped a pregnant woman on her back while she was laying in the dirt, her baby would not be harmed. Which I just thought was crazy, even from the perspective of, if you think of that baby as your property, and you know, and you want to get some work value out of the baby, then why you would take the risk of beating a pregnant woman, you know. But the whole thing about this chapter is really painting a picture of what the culture and the medical practices were in the 17 and 1800s. So, you know, so there were a lot of things like not washing your hands, you know, operating with dirty instruments, you know, a lot of things that they did back then that certainly don't make any sense to us now. So, yeah.